know the day they come in here is going to be the day I don't have it up. Like, that's going to be what happens, so.
Then that's what you just said. So normally you see the objective earlier.
Oh, you don't have to write all that down. Oh my goodness.
621.
6-2, day 1.
I wrote day 2.
See if it'll recognize that. Oh, say I.
It's a Roman numeral.
Well, it's supposed to.
Yeah, I don't like the writing. Just kidding.
Can I go now? Let's read this before you all just start writing and decide if we need to write this all down. Okay? A function is one-to-one if any two different inputs, that would be like domain values, oh look, in the domain, correspond to two different outputs in the range. In other words, all the values in the domain are different from each other, and all the values in the range are different from each other. You need to know what a one-to-one function is. The first sentence is the book's definition of a one-to-one function. I don't like that definition. I like my definition. So I think you should write, a function is one-to-one if all the values in the domain are different and all the values in the range are different.
Sometimes I feel like, there you go. Okay, sometimes I feel like we're just taking algebra 2 again.
And what college algebra is, which is why
I really hate it.
they require algebra 2 for core 40, which is what they say you should do to be college ready. But the problem is, you take algebra 2 as a sophomore or junior, depending on when you take it, then that's a long time before you get to college, and then you forget lots of it.
I
So
thought that they were making it to where you had to do 4 years in math.
they are. So if you have any little siblings, or someday when you have little munchkins, they are making you take 4 years now.
And my nephew said he wasn't going to take math, so he has to take
It's my first year of teaching. So what? This is my 10th year of teaching. So 10 years ago, they made it a law in Indiana that everyone had to take algebra 1. Before that, which means longer than 10 years ago, people could graduate high school without even taking algebra 1. And so that's changed. So you guys don't know what that's like. There used to be lots of other math classes. Like you had people that took like algebra and the track that everyone takes now. And then you had like business math and problem solving 1, problem solving 2, problem solving 3. And those were the different tracks. People that weren't going to college maybe went on that track of like business math, problem solving 1. Those aren't even approved math courses anymore in the state of Indiana. Pre-algebra isn't even an approved math course as a high school course. Like algebra 1 is like the lowest math class that's even approved as a math course anymore. So things have changed in the last 10 years.
So you have to take
yes. I mean, or if you take it, like I think it used to be, I have to check the new list, but it used to be pre-algebra was listed as a course, but it doesn't count as a math course. It just counts as an elective. So just like foods or, you know, ag or whatever, like it just counts as an elective. That's why we have to offer more stuff, right? And so that's why this class is being offered now. There's statistics that we offer. I'm hoping maybe eventually to offer another college course that's even lower than this course.
What's lower?
It's called, I don't even know, math something or the other, but it's like Bryce, I think. Bryce, are you way back there?
Advanced tech.
Did you say, one of you said that at Ivy Tech, the degree that you want, like the class you need is below this one?
Oh,
right? Like this is math 136, and there's like math 116, there's math 117. I forget what it's called, but like it's not as hard as this. Like when I talked to Ivy Tech about offering this course, they were like, this course is really hard. Like that, I don't know if you want to offer this course. Like you might want to offer 116. I was like, this is like algebra 2, but they're like, this is really hard.
and look at us. We're like individuals.
I feel like the whole first semester is just wow.
I got some A's up though.
But what makes this hard? spent 4 days on a section, they would do in 1 day. That's a lot to digest. And you don't have such awesome teacher always as, the teacher you have. So.
That is very true.
Wink, wink.
I think it's gonna be different in college because you don't get to really know your teacher. You don't get to have discussions about Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, that's an awesome show. We should have that, Breaking Bad. A comedian said once, when Breaking Bad was ending, and I tried not to listen because I didn't want to find out how it ended, but a comedian said, what would be really funny? Did you guys ever watch Malcolm in the Middle?
Yes.
He's the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, and they said, what would be really funny if he just, walked into the house of Malcolm in the Middle, and they're all sitting there, his whole family, and they're like, Dad, where have you been? And then that's how it ends.
He's had a second family. He's still living with them.
Part of your homework today is just determine if the function is 1-to-1, and they just give it to you written as ordered pairs. And what are you looking for? You're looking for all the domain values are different. That's how you tell if something's a function. If all the domain values are different, to be 1-to-1, all the range values also have to be different. So all you have to look here and tell me, are all the x's different? Are all the y's different? The x values are -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. Those are all different numbers. So that's good. The y values are 6, 3, 2, 5, 8. Those are all different. So, yes, that's some good homework today, right?
And our homework assignment is.
You don't
That's the
necessarily
only thing we're doing.
have to write this next one down if you don't want to, because you're going to cry about how awful it looks. But they're going to give them to you in charts like this too, and I just don't want you to freak out. And so, this is the age of people, and this is their HDL cholesterol levels.
It's like they took the numbers.
And they just draw arrows. And so, you could think about these as ordered pairs. 38 is matched up with 57. 42 is matched up with 54. 46 is matched up with 34. 55 is matched up with 38. And 61 is matched up with 38. If 2 arrows point to the same number, that means it's not going to be 1-to-1. Because here's where they get the idea of 1-to-1. A 1-to-1 correspondence means every number has one number that it goes with, and that's it, right? So the answer here would be no. Who thinks this is hard? The Ivy Tech person? Okay, this isn't that hard, but some of the stuff we do is a little more difficult. Okay, that's not so bad, right? Let's move on. You don't necessarily have to write this down either, but this is just trying to make the connection. Do you remember what we use the vertical line test for?
To find out if it's a function or not.
To see if it's a function, right? We look at the graph and we say, if the vertical line only touches the graph in one spot, then it's a function. Yes?
Yes.
So, what does the vertical line tell us? If it is a function.
You have your handy dandy little, ding.
Oh, I wasn't thinking that clear. We also can do the horizontal line test, and I don't know if Algebra 2 you talk about the horizontal line test, but in pre-calculus we talk about the horizontal line test. I think you should write this down. Hannah Perry, the one that's in 4th hour, came in my class in 7th hour and said, "Hey, that's the guy from Eddie." And I was like, I have to tell Nathan, he'll be so happy that you knew.
Yeah, I think that's a blank.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would draw blank.
Stop.
Everybody remembers blank, but none of the other.
So if a horizontal line test is just like the vertical line test, except for instead of drawing vertical lines, what kind of lines are we going to draw? Horizontal lines, right? And what we're looking for is the same idea as a vertical line test. The horizontal line can't touch the graph in more than one spot. And if it does pass the horizontal line test, if it only touches in one spot, then we say it's 1-to-1. So part of your homework today is they're going to give you a graph, and they're going to say, is it 1-to-1? Use the horizontal line test, which means all you're doing is imagining drawing horizontal lines. What's even more important about horizontal lines test, how about the word moreover? Do you believe I use the word moreover? Moreover, I'll use that another time. If a function passes the horizontal line test, then that means that that function has an inverse that's also a function. The what? You do? I love that show. Someone just said that.
With his mom, and like, so that's why he feels
That sounds very morbid.
yeah, it's weird.
I don't know. Rugrats. She's rooting Rugrats for everyone.
Theory about the horse story.
About the mom or something? I didn't watch it. I don't like things being ruined for me.
Hey, Rugrats might their neighbors just jump over.
Okay, kids. We have stuff to do here, kids. Use the horizontal line test. Determine if each function is 1 to 1. I was going to just draw random graphs here, but then I thought we could draw graphs we actually know. So if I wanted to draw in the graph of x cubed, what does x cubed look like? There's a 0, and this side goes up, and this side goes down.
Can I write this on the whiteboard because I don't want to do it right now? I can't remember.
You don't need to draw it. You can just look at it and tell me.
But I kind of what to do.
That one's yes. That one's no.
So if you had x cubed, would x cubed pass the horizontal line test? Because no matter where you drew a horizontal line on that, it is going to pass. Each horizontal line is only going to pass it once. Yes? So is it 1 to 1? Yes.
Wait.
But what if we drew x squared?
No.
What does x squared look like?
Well,
Now that's a function. That passes the vertical line test. But does it pass the horizontal line test? No, because if you drew a horizontal line here, it's going to cross it twice.
is there like two movie things like one and one?
Onto, but we don't talk about onto. Which means this is not 1 to 1 because there are two y values, two x values that correspond to every y value. That's positive. That's good. That's so far easy homework, right? We kind of wrote this already if you wrote down the horizontal line test. But if a function is 1 to 1, then why are we talking about this? Because we want to talk about inverses. And to have an inverse that's a function, it has to be 1 to 1. All right? So my other stuff here is, like, if you already wrote that earlier, you don't have to write that, but you need to write this. The way that we write the inverse of f is we write it to, like, the -1 power. It's not an exponent. Like, we read that as f inverse. Don't say f -1. I might throw something at you. Oh my god! I'm so sorry. You're gonna hit Nathan and no one else. He's the only one that can take it. Oh my gosh. That almost hit me in the head. I can't go to the back row here. Normally I just try to hit, like, totally miss you, but
You're just saying that's so you don't look bad. Because you're actually aiming for me.
maybe guys. I'm not gonna throw things anymore. It's a lesson I learned. So you learn this in Algebra 2 also, but the definition of an inverse is that you switch the domain and range. That's why we're now looking at the horizontal line test instead of the vertical line test, because it's kind of like the y's become the x's. Yeah. So today we're not even getting into the equation part of inverses. We're just going to talk about writing the inverse of like this. I think this is all I do. I kept like adding more to the notes yesterday. I was like, is this enough notes? Should I do the next thing? Is this enough notes?
We can write some in the notes during the really short class. You don't mind when we talk about other things, because otherwise they're like, yeah, you guys do it.
I think, I don't know. I'm kind of worried. I was kind of worried like, when we started talking about breaking down that we were going to run out of time.
I think we should shoot.
Almost done. I really think I'm almost
I
done.
need to get this on the wall.
Inverse. Definition of inverse is the domain of the range switch. So if this are my points, these are my points here, what would the inverse function be? Instead of being 2, 1, what would it be? 1, 2. Instead of being -3, 4, it would be 4, -3. And instead of being 5, 0, it would be the 0.05. And again, they could give it to you in a chart where this is the x's, this is the y's, and you just switch them around too, right? Questions about that? Let's see if that's it.
I don't remember. Yes.
Oh, wait, one more thing. This is really the last thing. I forgot. This is the one thing that actually takes a little work today. The rest of your homework is like piece of cake. Yes. To show or prove, we don't like to use the P word in math class because people get scared. But to prove that two functions are inverses, this is why we had to learn about function composition. Because if you show that f of f inverse of x equals f inverse of f of x, which equals just x, then that means they're inverses, because that means they completely undo each other. That's what inverse does, right? The inverse of addition is subtraction. The inverse of multiplication is division. If you take an inverse function and you plug it into the original function, they should undo everything that's there except for x. So just like number 47 that was on your homework yesterday, when it says show that the two functions are inverses, you want to do the composition and show that they cancel each other out. The nice thing is that it should work if they're inverses. So let's do, this is the examples in your, this is the directions in your homework. It says, show that the functions are inverses, include any excluded values from the domain. And I think if we're okay with this, this will be my last one, even if I haven't. Well, this might be the one you want to actually pay attention to. So notice they just call them f of x and g of x because they want you to show that they're inverses, but they're not necessarily saying it's an inverse yet. You just want to do the composition. That's all you want to do. To show that they're inverses, you want to do this. You want to do f of g of x, and you want to do g of f of x, and they should both equal x. If they don't, they're not inverses. If they do, then they're inverses. And so this is why we do composition leads into this. Ooh. See how it's all connected? So you might say, why did they do this? Do I want to distribute? Because hopefully this will be nice here. If I take this and I plug it into f, do you agree that that's going to be 3 minus 2 times negative 1/2 times x minus 3? So why did they leave the negative 1/2 out there? Because if I take negative 2 times negative 1/2, do you agree that that just equals 1? So I don't even need to distribute now. Like that's just the same as saying 3, that's just going to equal 1. So now that's just 3 plus x minus 3. You believe me on that? 3 minus 3 cancels out. Hooray, it equals x. If this doesn't equal x, do you need to check the second part? No, because if the top one doesn't equal x, it doesn't matter if the bottom one equals x because it can't be an inverse if they don't both equal x. So this is why you have to be able to do composition to prove this. So what if I go the other way? What if I take this function and plug it in for x right here? So now I'm going to get negative 1/2 times 3 minus 2x minus 3. Minus 3 is 0, yes? So I'm left with negative 1/2 times negative 2x. And what is negative 1/2 times negative 2? Just x. That's a proof. I know people think of terrible things with proofs, but that's using algebra to prove that those both equal x. If we were really doing a proof, we'd want to like write a summary and say, because f of g of x equals g of f of x, which equals x, then we know these two are functions. But we're just going to say, check. Okay, that's the worst of your homework today, which I don't think is terrible if you did the composition stuff. I think I had another one. We want to look at this fraction one?
No. No, you know we're just going to ask you about it tomorrow.
We just know it's going to equal x.
So you have to show the work. You write this down, and then I'll just work this out for anyone that cares.
Well, now everyone's gonna watch.
This is 62 day 1. 12 through 42 multiples of 3, which isn't really that many problems, but when you look at it, you're going to see like the first 3 are just looking at it and saying 1 to 1, yes or no. There's some graphs that you just say yes or no to. There's some find the inverse where you just switch x and y. You only have about 8 minutes left in here, 7 minutes. So you probably could get about half of this done because a lot of it's just yes or no stuff. Okay? I have this written down. Writing it down. Oh my gosh, this looks terrible.
Okay, I have a question.
What? I'm gonna come over here. I don't think this is gonna work. I'm kind of feeling very stressed right now.
Okay, we all make mistakes. We're only here to correct.
I don't think this is right.
Do you know how long this is taking you to do it? Do you expect us to do it?
I do. Alright, I gotta go back and find my mistake. Maybe I wrote it wrong. Oh, I don't know, kids. You're just gonna put equals x, aren't you?
Yes.